So I just saw Raya and the Last Dragon, and it was fine. It was kind of cute, I guess. Obviously, it was well animated. The action was pretty neat, and I really liked it when the fast-paced percussion kicked in. But unfortunately, this is yet another Disney movie that just kind of falls straight down the middle, and I have no strong feelings one way or the other about it. It's about as standard as you can get for a family adventure film. Oh no, the broken fragments of this important thing are spread across these 5 different locations. Hey, I'm Raya, my father turned to stone, can you help me? Sure, I'm the dragon and my family turned to stone, so I'll help you. Hey kid, our family turned into stone, could you help us? Sure, my family turned into stone, I'll help you. Hey baby, give us back our... That sounds so fucking weird. Hey, give us back our stones. We're trying to use them to unstone our family. Your family turned into stone? Well, my family turned into stone, so I'll help you. Hey man, don't kill us. We're trying to collect these gems so that we can unstone our families. Your family turned into stone? Well, my family turned into stone too. I wonder what's gonna happen next. This story's been done 1,000 different times before, and there's nothing that it does differently here to make it stand out from the rest. Like, I understand that there are only so many ways you can tell an adventure fetch quest story, but I was hoping at the very least I could enjoy the ride for some fun character interactions, which unfortunately just wasn't the case. I personally couldn't connect to anyone on an emotional or even comedic level, and there was no satisfying payoff in the end because literally everything that went wrong was completely undone with magic. I never thought for a moment that the characters were in any form of viable danger. Endgame had a very similar plot where they had to collect a bunch of gems to bring back all their friends and family, but in that story there are actual consequences to the dangers they faced, and at least a few limitations to the sci-fi mumbo-jumbo they believed would fix everything. Another aspect of this movie that was really frustrating was its message. Not only was it way too simplified, but it was so on the nose and explicit that it left no room for interpretation. The dialogue overall was just so clunky and exposition heavy, although it's possible that it may just be a regional thing and that it just doesn't translate well into perfect English. Because after all, this movie was specifically made for China. And speaking of which, a lot of people are confused as to why this is $30 extra on Disney Plus, when other films like Hamilton, Soul, etc. weren't. Well, I think it's because that this and Mulan specifically were designed to be the next big box office hits for Disney, but not quite in the same way their other films have been successful. Let me explain. At some point, Hollywood realized that China made a considerable percentage of box office numbers, so they figured that the more they cater to, or more accurately pander to, the Chinese audience, the more cash they'll rake up from over there even if it doesn't make as much money here in America. Then the coronavirus hit, which meant no one was allowed to go to theaters for a while, and Disney was left wondering how they could still make a ton of cash off of movies that barely anyone wanted to see because of how poorly marketed or bad they were. So my guess is that someone went, hey, the majority of Disney Plus accounts are owned by entire families as opposed to individuals, right? So if we assume that every account owner is a theoretical family of 3 or 4 people, then the price for early access to these movies should be around $30 because that's how much they would pay for a theater. Sure, it's a deal that sounds immediately ridiculous because no other streaming service has made people pay extra for their original content, especially since we'll release it like normal somewhere in the near future, but we gotta recoup our losses somehow. Otherwise, it would completely defeat the purpose of why we made this movie to begin with. Seriously, if things don't get back to normal soon, I can almost guarantee you they're gonna do the same thing to that Marvel movie, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. I appreciate more diversity in film, but Disney's motive seems so transparent to me that it just comes off as manipulative and kind of exploitative in some ways. If you're gonna make a movie showcasing an underrepresented culture, and your main goal for making that movie is just so that you can say that you made a movie about an underrepresented culture, then it's no surprise that the final product is going to be missing that authenticity that connects art with its audience. I don't mean to be reductive and say that any Chinese movie produced by Disney from here on out is destined to be only bad or mediocre, but it's very telling where their priorities are when they try to pull stuff like this. So with all that being said, do I recommend it? Well, at the very least, I think you should wait a few months for when it's no longer an extra $30, because when everything's said and done, it is just okay. And I don't mean to shame anyone for liking it, even if you do acknowledge Disney's scummy business practices. So if this looks good to you, then go ahead and watch it, but don't be surprised if it's a little underwhelming.